Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another FPG News podcast. I am your host, as always, Stewart Lang. If you want to hit me on Twitter, it's Out After Dark 216. I am here with Liam Morrow, and we are going to talk about the Mojo Rawley of WWE pay-per-views, the absolute diabolical and abomination that was Fastlane 2017. If that intro doesn't give you any hints, this is probably going to be a show that contains a little bit of swearing, so if you are under a certain age, please, listen to all the other shows and get those clicks up, so that'd be fantastic. Thanks. Liam, how are you this fine evening?
Yeah, I was alright, till I watched Fastlane.
So yeah, you didn't catch it live, did you? You didn't sit up for it, you watched it today, am I right?
No, God no, I can't. I haven't got the stamina to stay up that late. I did watch it today, and yeah, it was, well, just god awful. It was everything I dreaded and worse.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the perfect way to really say it. Is that there's just so much wrong. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people trying to put positive spins on some of the matches, and don't get me wrong, I will try and do the same thing. There is a few things that I quite enjoyed. I'll talk about those. I'll be quite frank, but the stuff that was bad, I think, is everything that's bad about wrestling at the moment. Like, I think it really was the 3 hours of what's wrong right now. So without sort of further ado, I'll kind of kick off. I actually quite enjoyed the kickoff match. It was pretty short. It was quite late in the show, which kind of did telegraph the ending a little bit. You knew they weren't going to go too long, which Noam Dar and Brian Kendrick taking on Akira Tozawa and Rich Swann. It was fine. There's not much I can say about it. It was perfectly adequate match. Probably nothing you wouldn't see on 205 Live anyway. And yeah, it was what it was. Heel tactics from Noam Dar Kendrick throughout it. You had Alicia Fox stopping Tozawa and Rich Swann going for a double swanton kind of deal, which they eventually hit. I don't like their Tozawa's chant that he gets the crowd doing, like what's that?
No,
What is that?
It is a bit irritating.
Are these sort of cheer along to, like, I thought Yes was pretty basic. Like, are we now going?
I think it just started off as like a noise he made when he did a move. I don't think it was anything intentional. We just happened to do that noise, and sort of the universe during the Cruiserweight Championship sort of did it along with him, and he's taken that as, oh, they like that. Oh, I'll do that more. Or probably more likely, someone in creative has said, universe like that, you should do that more.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, I really don't think that it can get any more basic than grunting. I mean, it's basically the chant equivalent of a women's tennis match. But yeah, it was what it was. The good guys picked up the win, as I predicted on the preview column last week with the preview podcast. With Paul last week. And yeah, I don't know where any of them go from here on. There was no real fuckery towards the end of it, and that was kind of it. I will say the good thing about the pre-show is Charlie Caruso. If you haven't seen her on any of the Raw stuff, you need to see this girl. Like, she's awesome. she's like, yeah, she's like a really, really hot Renee Young, who's already really, really hot. So
yeah,
all I can really say about that.
I mean, my wife's downstairs, thankfully, but yeah, she is quite hot.
See, I can say that in the safe knowledge that I think it would take an awful lot for my girlfriend to actually listen to a wrestling podcast, let alone any podcast. So yeah, I'm saying that in quiet confidence. But yeah, we hit the main show, and we opened, and I actually sent out a tweet that if this was the opener, I could guilt-free go to bed at any point for the rest of the show. I did take the WWE up on that offer and watched the rest in the morning. But I made it about 2.5 hours through the show, but this was a good opening matchup. Sami Zayn taking on Samoa Joe. It was good. I like the fact that they did go kind of 50-50 through a lot of it, because Zayn and Joe went for a full episode of NXT once, so it does make sense that Zayn wasn't just a jobber to the stars, despite the fact he did get choked out at the end. I guess is the best way you can call it. He didn't tap. He did essentially pass out. So,
Yeah.
what did you think of the match?
It was, like you said, it was pretty 50-50, which, one, you expect Samoa Joe to get the offensive quite a lot. Two, you expect Sami Zayn to have his, I don't know if it's fair to call them comebacks, but like his resilient side, let's say. And yeah, I've noticed Samoa Joe stopped using the Muscle Buster. I don't know if that's because of something Cesaro said about someone getting injured, but it was well, yeah, good way to start the show, but it just sort of went bad from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Muscle Buster, I like the fact that they teased it in this match. Kind of spoke about this kind of thing with Paul on other show, was that it's kind of good to have like super finishers for a lot of guys. You've got John Cena and AJ Styles. Like the attitude adjustment is basically moot as a finishing move right now, because in a big match situation, the first one's never going to end it. So I kind of like the fact that they're teasing this like devastating maneuver. So hopefully when he finally does get permission to use it again, if that indeed is what has happened, that it's for a big deal. But yeah, I love the Coquina clutch. Like it reminds me of the Taz mission. It can just be sunk in, and it's deep, and it's really hard to get out of. And you've got this absolute tank of a human on your back, so you're not really getting to go anywhere, and it looks devastating. And Sami sold it perfectly. One thing you can always say about Sami, he bumped around like a pinball for Joe. Only criticism I have for Zayn is that for a kind of high flying guy, he takes an awful long time getting up to the top turnbuckle. I know he's kind of labouring a little bit, selling the beating that he's taken, but RVD's springboard kind of top rope jump, that would work wonders for Sami at this point.
Yeah, but like you say, Sami Zayn traditionally, he takes a lot of punishment. So whether he could do that at the end of a match and still be able to sell it properly is another matter. Yeah,
it's totally true. Totally true. It's just that's kind of one thing I have. But yeah, I enjoyed it as an opener. As I say, it was one of the probably 3 matches I said beforehand that I was really looking forward to. The fact it was first kind of made it a bit easier to step away when going started a little bit downhill. So between the first match and the second match, we got a little bit of promo with Bayley. Nia Jax appeared and just fine, yeah, okay, whatever. But then we had the Raw Tag Team Championship match, which was the hugely undervalued Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson walking in as champions against Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy.
Butch and Spike, I call them.
Yeah, that's
those little cartoon dogs they used to have on. I think it was like Tom and Jerry or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was Tom and Jerry. Yeah, it was the Butch was the big dog that lived in the backyard, and Spike was his son. Yeah, yeah. See, I think I compared Enzo to Nasher from Dennis the Menace.
Yeah. Just this annoying little bitey thing that just...
Yeah. I mean, what did you make of this, Matt? What was your sort of breakdown of this one?
I for some reason, I can't understand why they don't just get Enzo, beat him to a pulp and pin him. They always let him get to Cass, and they know he's going to come in and he's going to do his big boots and stinger splashes and whatnot. Yeah. I don't know. It's because Enzo and Cass are so over with the universe, they don't want to let him go to waste. But at the same time, Cass is the only one who can legitimately do anything in the future by himself.
Yeah.
If Enzo was left to his own, he could, don't know, maybe get some sort of like, token US title run like Zack Ryder did. Yeah. But he's never going to do anything amazing.
I think Zack Ryder's a really good comparison for Enzo, actually. I think you've kind of hit something there. Like, I would say that Zack looks like he should be more of the part, but yeah, I think they'll keep Enzo around. It's just in what regard, especially if they do break up Enzo and Cass. It was totally by the numbers for those guys. Like, I actually would go so far as saying that somehow I think Enzo's worse than he was in NXT. I don't know if he feels his position is more secure, or he's just not working as hard, or what, but he really doesn't look like he's at the same pace as he once was.
I've noticed he tends to botch things quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like if he goes over the top rope, he'll miss by a mile or barely graze them.
Yeah.
But obviously they did it last night, and Cass sort of threw him over the top rope, and he missed them. But Anderson and Gallows, being the professionals they are, still try to sort of sell it a bit. Yeah. But yeah, Enzo to me just isn't viable on his own.
No.
So that means he's only ever going to be in a tag team, which means he's going to drag down whoever's he's in a team with.
I mean, do you see Enzo and Cass having like legs as far as like any further progression in the tag division goes? Like, do you see them lasting another 6 months or another 12 months?
I can certainly say if after WrestleMania they have some sort of draft trade or whatever, like they used to.
Yeah.
I can see them being traded to SmackDown. Maybe not for another team, because they got to try and sort of get another tag team in the SmackDown pool, because it's, well, I don't know if American Alpha have been around for a couple of weeks, but if they stay on Raw, I can see them just having endless matches against Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah.
And just everyone getting bored of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people seem to be bored of them. I mean, my Twitter feed last night was full of people complaining about Enzo and Cass, which is why it's so remarkable to see them still get the sort of reaction that they do.
Just, I think when they were in NXT, there was quite a sort of big tag team division, with them, Alpha. I know the Ascension had gone, but they sort of came back for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The Revival and all that. And they sort of realised they're too over in NXT, so they've brought them to Raw. And Raw crowds love them, but, they can't give them the titles, because it means giving fucking Enzo Amore a title,
Yeah, exactly. And you said when we chatted earlier on that you thought that the best thing about the show was actually that they decided to let.
But they didn't win.
Yeah, was that Enzo and Cass didn't win.
Because I like, like you, I like Gallows and Anderson, but they've just been criminally underutilised. Why they decided to break up the club, I will never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah, it's criminal, and I want to see them as killers at this point, but even with the belts, they're really not showing the sort of the tenacity that I want to see from them. Like, they're not showing us how good they are. They're not being this all dominant tag team, which
no,
they should be. I mean, They should be.
I hope they're waiting for maybe Finn Balor to come back and, start up the club again.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That would be good. Yeah. That was always the problem, was when they all came back and there was sort of going to be potentially Finn Balor coming up and AJ in the club and Finn Balor all ending up on the same roster, like sort of pre-draft. Was how are Balor and Styles going to fit when they've both led the Bullet Club in New Japan? But no one knows that in WWE. Like there's smart fans and then there's everyone else, and everyone else doesn't know the ins and outs of the fucking Bullet Club. Like they can make it work however they want to, and that sort of alliance would be fine. But AJ doing his own thing on SmackDown, I hope that opens that opportunity up, because I think Balor needs something sort of concrete to do when he comes back as well, and a nice little stable would be pretty good. And I
think because he was only on Raw for 3 weeks before he got injured, something like that, I think he needs a bit of protecting when he comes back. Not because he's going to be fragile or anything, but because he's been away for so long that he doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself. So just sort of give him a couple of heavies to sort of boss around for a couple of weeks, and let him sink his teeth into it a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean that would certainly make sense, because you can't really foresee with the Universal title picture, which we will get to later on, if Finn is, as a lot of people are claiming, like basically cleared to return at this point, he's not walking back into the Universal title picture anyway. So give him that. Give him a couple of heavies to help him get revenge on whoever he wants. Kevin Owens, for storyline's sake. Whatever that, get Owens and Jericho, let them finish their stuff. And then, Finn Balor Owens with the club in tow. That'd be great. I'd be happy with
maybe with Seth Rollins now being the babyface, Finn Balor comes back, does a heel turn for putting him out of the picture for so long.
Yeah, exactly. So there's hopefully good things to come for the club. I just hope that they do before we're reminded that Luke Gallows was part of the Straight Edge Society. Because people
and it was Festus.
And people will remember Festus. If they remember the Straight Edge Society, they'll remember Festus. And that's just unfortunate. But I will say, before we move on, I'll hold my hands up. I did kind of like Jesse and Festus. I kind of enjoyed that gimmick. It was a bit of a guilty pleasure.
I didn't mind them in the ring, but when their entrance music hit and the first thing you hear was biscuits and gravy, I just thought, oh dear. That's the start of their entrance music. What hope have they got, really?
Yeah. See, we're both British. Like, we have no idea what biscuits and gravy even is. Like, it's dog food to me. Dog food is biscuits and gravy. Like, if you are American,
I think a biscuit is like similar to a savoury scone.
Right. Okay.
I think a similar thing, but I'm not entirely sure.
That still wouldn't go with gravy. I don't understand American people sometimes. Speaking of not understanding American people sometimes, we had Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley in a short segment, who was saying that she was watching the show on her phone, but she was on the phone to Mick Foley, and she had been watching, and it was all very convoluted. She also said that she was going to stay on the show, on the phone for the rest of the show with Mick Foley, which would be one thing, but it's, if you watch everything else on the network, you'll know that Stephanie McMahon has an iPhone, and if she's been watching 45 minutes of the WWE network and then makes a phone call and also claims that she's going to continue that phone call for another 2.5 hours, that's really unbelievable. Like, it's wrestling, I'm going to suspend my disbelief, but you're not getting a 3-hour phone call plus video streaming out of an iPhone. Sorry.
No.
So yeah, fine. It was all a little bit anonymous GM, but yeah, whatever. Had to continue the tensions with Foley somehow. Next up, we had a women's match. We had Sasha Banks taking on Nia Jax in another encounter. Jax is obviously been having her way with Sasha for a few weeks, injured her for a bit. This was meant to be Jax coming to stake her claim at the next opportunity at the title, but we had Sasha defeat her with some sort of submission kind of... No, sorry, it was like a weird kind of roll-up hold thing, and it was...
Yeah, I think she was kind of reaching for the ropes for a second, but couldn't quite reach them, but still won anyway.
Yeah, so I don't really think it did a great deal for Sasha Banks. I'm not massively sold on her this year. I've sort of said on the weekly digest that I'm not too happy with the way the Raw women have been booked this year so far. I did also say in the women's wrestling show that, like, if the women are being booked as indifferently as the men, then that's progress. But these girls came in with so much hype, and there's only so many times we can see combinations of these four women fighting. It's a shame, but there's nothing Sasha Banks is going to do against any of these girls that's going to excite me enough to really be invested in one of her matches.
No, I think the worst thing they did was break them into Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
I think they should have kept them all on one show.
Yeah.
At least then you would have had the four main ones on Raw, plus Becky Lynch, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Natalia, all that.
Yeah.
So there'd be a bit of competition.
Yeah. SmackDown could have had the tag division. Raw could have had the women's division. That would have been fair enough to me. I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have minded that at all. And it would have just broken up the monotony a little bit.
Yeah. Plus, you wouldn't have to put up with them god awful red and blue tag belts.
Oh yeah. 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 It was what it was. Fair enough. Now, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about this? It was just I'm completely underwhelmed by it. I've nothing.
The only couple of points I have are Sasha Banks works so much better as a heel. Because she can put her attitude there more. So there's that. And also Nia Jax. She should use that torture rack as a finisher.
Oh yeah.
She's big enough and strong enough to be able to do that. Yeah. And no one likes being finished off by a fucking leg drop, do they?
No. Well, no, I think that I believe Sasha kicked out of the leg drop across her back at one point.
Yeah.
So was that a telegraphed finishing maneuver? Was that just a transitional move? Like you wouldn't see Hulk Hogan dropping a leg drop halfway through his match because that's being saved up. So just sort this out.
No, but then he walks around the ring pointing and flexing for about 5 minutes before he does it.
That's true. It does make it an awful lot more powerful. So yeah, I don't know if you saw the whole of the pre-show, but we had an overly strange segment in the pre-show that had Jinder Mahal and Rusev bickering in front of Mick Foley about them both wanting to have a singles match to show how good they were being single stars. Mick Foley said about they would choose who was first and he would have two opponents lined up, and then Cesaro and Sheamus came out and I thought that was the two opponents, and then we had Cesaro and Jinder Mahal going far longer than they had any right ever going, and then Sheamus vanished. But we'll get to that.
That was weird.
Because I thought when they both came out, they both got their own entrance musics. I thought it was going to be these two guys are here for one-on-one matches. These two guys are here pick your match kind of thing. That would have been fine. I would have quite liked almost that to have happened with maybe Rusev defeating Sheamus in the second match, just to continue the story of the four of them even another couple of weeks, because literally they're not doing anything else. But yeah, we had Jinder and Rusev fighting. Rusev's got a swanky new haircut. which ironically I will get a cheap plug in for Alternative Facts on FPG News tomorrow, which is looking at generic haircuts in wrestlers, which came about in a really, really obscure way last night while watching this pay-per-view. And my girlfriend was asking who someone was and why he didn't look like a wrestler was because he had a really kind of ordinary haircut. And I just kind of ran with that. So yeah, tomorrow on FPG News, check it out. But yeah, anyway, back to it. Cesaro won this match. Like I say, took this far too long, and it was crap. It was absolute crap. This was a bad Raw match, and here we are in the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, getting Jinder Mahal taking Cesaro to his limits almost. So
yeah, I think it was one that could have possibly been bumped to the pre-show. I don't know. Cesaro is, technically he's one of the better wrestlers on the roster.
Yeah.
He's strong, he's fast, he's quite intelligent, quite charismatic, but they just can't place him anywhere.
No.
I don't know why. They just can't fit him in somewhere.
See, I like what he's got with Sheamus, to be totally honest with you. They had a good interaction on the pre-show panel when they came out, and Cesaro sort of played to the crowd and got everyone around the sort of wee dugout where they sit and have the show. He got everyone to cheer when he raised his hands, and then he got a little Cesaro chant, and then he prompted Sheamus to do the same thing, and Sheamus lifted his hands and pandered to the crowd and got boos. And they both kind of laughed it off, and they were like, "Well, this is what we're doing. We've got respect for what." And it was good. Like, I don't have a problem with them together. I don't even have a problem with the way this is going in theory, but it was so badly executed. And then after the match, Rusev decided he was going to take some sort of frustrations out on Jinder Mahal. Again, fair enough. And then, absolutely inexplicably, we had the Big Show come out and take on Rusev in another match that went on far too long, and Big Show made Rusev look like a jobber. He destroyed him towards the end. Like the KO punch.
Yeah, what was it, like 3 choke slams?
3 choke slams and then a KO punch while Rusev was lying in the corner. And like, I don't want to see people saying, "Oh, Rusev took 3 choke slams and a KO punch before he got finished off there." Like, I don't care. Like, there's no reason for the Big Show to be looking strong against anyone, especially as we're not getting Big Show against Shaq at WrestleMania anymore, it looks. But also, who the fuck cares if Big Show has to look strong against Shaquille O'Neal? He's Shaquille O'Neal. Like, he's not a wrestler. You don't need to cut off Rusev at the knees for the Big Show anymore. Like, he's not the giant Paul White. He's not, big nasty bastard anymore. He is a guy who is loyal to the company and cries quite often.
Yeah, and granted, he's probably in sort of the best shape of his life at the moment, but
well, it's taken him 20 years.
His sort of younger years are behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because he had such a good match on Raw with Braun Strowman of all people. Like, I can't get over how much better that match was than it had any right to be. Like, it was fantastic by both men. And it's the first time I've seen Big Show look that good for a while. This did the exact opposite. This was back to the Big Show I don't want to see, which is, the one that was third in the Royal Rumble last year. Where he's doing whatever it takes and teaming up with Corporate Kane to pick up Roman Reigns and throw him out. Like, it was shit. And Rusev deserves so much better than getting demolished by Big Show. Like, he deserves better than a pointless feud with Jinder Mahal, but also he can look like $1 million coming out of it. Like, if he destroys Mahal, great, fine. It keeps Rusev busy. It doesn't make him look bad. he battered a bitch and that's it. But
we get to see more Alana.
We'd get to see more Alana. It'd be fine. But no, we get this.
I just, the Big Show. I don't know. I don't know why he's still there. I don't know. He seems to be out of the company for longer than he's in.
Yeah.
Like, he sort of comes back for 2 months, and then he goes away for 4.
Yeah.
And then sort of, oh my God, it's a surprise. Oh, Big Show's back. He's a mystery opponent. And then sort of goes again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the frustration. Like, we all knew that there was rumour of a Shaquille O'Neal match. Has been talked about for nearly a year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So what's he still doing here? Like, what is he still doing here? If he's not getting the match against Shaquille O'Neal, he should be doing what he did on Raw a couple of weeks ago, which being, like, the guy is a legitimate giant. He is a huge guy. He's a huge deal. He's got credentials. He's got 20 years plus of experience in wrestling. He is the exact sort of person who should be lying down for Braun Strowman and Rusev at this point in his career.
And also, I think the reason they had such a good match is because I think it's because of Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
I think he tends to bring out, I hate to say it, but the last couple of times I've seen him in the ring with Roman Reigns, I've been quite impressed.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to Strowman.
And I fucking hate Reigns.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to Strowman in a minute because I do have quite a bit to talk about with him. But like that whole segment, it was pre-show or it was Raw. Like, at best, it was just nothing exciting about it. And really, like, that was the point where I started looking at my watch, looking at how many beers I had left in the fridge, and just thinking, you know what, I need to be at the doctor's at 2:00 tomorrow. So I don't want to have a really long line. I want to get up and do stuff in the morning, and this is now the point of no return for me. So I ended up watching the next match, which I will admit I'm quite glad to have. But yeah, we're teasing Austin Aries coming back to the 205 division, which is fine. He's appearing in the 205 division. He's never actually been in it. I assume that's where they're plugging him in, given the fact he's been commentary and stuff on the show.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
But yeah, we followed up with Neville the Uruk versus the gentleman Jack Gallagher. Thoughts on this one? I'll let you go first.
It was, quite honestly, the best match of the night for me.
Yeah.
I've loved Neville since he's come back. He's, I think, the best he's been. It's quite nice to see the Red Arrow again.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else could pull it off. Jack Gallagher. Gallagher. I like him. I don't think if he won the Cruiserweight title, I don't think it would have been clean.
No.
I don't think he's quite there yet. Having said that, he is one of my favourites. His headbutts are just brutal. It was just one of the best, the best match of the night.
Yeah,
I will say.
I mean, I think that they made a great choice in not putting the belt on Gallagher here, and I said as much in the preview show as well. I said that they need to start building this belt around somebody, and Neville's the perfect person to do it. And I like the fact that they put somebody in who seemed ready for the belt against Neville here, because one, it makes the belt seem a little bit better, but also it kind of bucks the trend of what the cruiserweights have been doing with the belt since it was created, which was kind of hot-shotting it onto like a flavour of the month kind of thing. Like the first feud between Perkins and Kendrick. Kendrick was kind of the right call at that point because the crowd were sort of getting into him as a heel. So wham, on we get a heel champion because Perkins was dead in the water. And then you know it's transitioned to then Rich Swann and to Neville, and each of those things.
I hated Rich Swann as a champion.
Oh yeah,
I hated him.
He was dreadful, but I mean he got it because people were starting to warm to his shtick a little bit. You know, they were getting on board with the dancing and stuff like that. So, you know, boom, belt's on him. Neville's now back. Neville has the belt. And yeah, great. Like, I love his character. I love his work at the moment. I think he's the best thing about Monday Night Television as far as wrestling goes. So, yeah, this match was the best thing on the show for me. And it's just a shame it had to follow such crap. But yeah, Gallagher is he's by no means done. Like the crowd are going to still buy into him as much as they did before this. I think. I hope they don't continue to go. I reckon they're probably going to get some sort of cruiserweight clusterfuck at WrestleMania with that belt. But yeah, like it was a diamond in a sea of shit at this point in the program. Yeah, that's kind of it with that one really, which is a shame because it was good. The crowd were so invested in it. It's the first time I've really seen the crowd actually getting into into the cruiserweight division. And I think that's due to the fact that they did put the two most over guys in that roster against one another.
And I think they just worked so well together because I think their styles are very different as well. Which, like, as much as cruiserweights are like fun to watch, there's only so much you can see people diving over the top rope to each other, and then you get Jack Gallagher in there, and he's just so completely different from everyone else in the division.
Yeah.
You know, when he sort of ties someone up in a knot and then does a sort of running punt up their backside.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, little moments like that in his matches are what's so fun about him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the problem with the cruiserweights is I feel like they're having the same matches as everyone else on the roster, really. Like, they're not, apart from us being guaranteed a suicide plunge or a tope suicida, mamma mia, whatever it is fucking Mauro wants to shout when it happens. Aside from that being basically guaranteed in every single match, they're having the same match as everyone else. You know, it's fine. It doesn't need its own division, really. But yeah, I'm glad to see it starting to hopefully warm up and go along the right way. I think they need to start differentiating the characters and the matches a little bit. And with guys like Neville and Jack Gallagher, I think it was a really...
Bring in Zack Sabre Jr.
Yes, yeah, but I think that this, yeah, of course, everything would be improved with Zack Sabre Jr. But yeah, this was a great showcase for the cruiserweight division. I think it's probably the best thing I can say about this pay-per-view is that it is the first time that they've really stolen the show. Yeah, so it was good. Unfortunately, we went straight back to absolute crap again. We had a tease that Brock Lesnar may or may have not been in the building from Paul Heyman. Spoiler alert, he apparently wasn't. So there's that. And then New Day came out with an ice cream truck, and it just made me want to kill myself. It was actually that made me switch off. It was that segment that made me decide that I was no longer prepared to sit through this. They're hosting WrestleMania, which is what it is. It's a named position at this point. I hope they don't have any real swing in it at all because none of them deserve or are ready for anything more than they are at the moment. I am over New Day. Let's
just break them up. Break them up. We don't. I just maybe. Even if it's, Xavier Woods and he does a Seth Rollins and belts the other two with a chair and does his own thing, like, just, I want them to implode.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of best thing for a New Day breakup to get anything out of them would actually be to have Big E turn on the other two. It kind of makes me think it would be like when DX imploded around sort of WrestleMania 15, and you had the whole thing with Hunter doing his double turn at WrestleMania 15, but then for another sort of like solid 7 or 8 months, you still had like X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws coming out and doing their DX stick, even though at that point the core of the group was gone. So Big E could probably have a decent heel run in him if they chose to turn him on New Day. And you could have Kofi and Xavier continue on as New Day, just as a tag team, until, you know, the sun burns out or one of them retires to be in movies or start ice cream or sell cereal or whatever the fuck I'm meant to believe New Day do anymore.
He seems to be like the spine of the group.
Yeah.
You know, because it's always him and Kofi or him and Xavier. You know, he's never the one on the sidelines because he's the biggest.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think they would have been as successful if it was anyone else in that role.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a perfect catalyst in that way for a heel turn. You know, you've got a justified heel turn there. You know, I'm fed up of carrying you two on my back. I can do this on my own. Boom, heel turn.
No, I used to like Kofi Kingston when he first started.
When he was Jamaican.
Well, yeah, first he was Jamaican, then he was from Ghana.
Yeah.
And now he's telling everyone he's from like LA or something.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I
don't know, they can't seem to decide.
Like, do you have a prediction for Mania for them? Like in terms of their hosting role?
What I would hope is, you know, they'd sort of host it for a while. The team would call them out and say, you know, you're only hosting because you're over the hill or something like that. And then they get the shit kicked out of them. But this is the New Day, and we know that's not going to happen.
I mean, the problem is with that is that it's not going to be by a current team. I mean, last year we saw something very similar happen at WrestleMania. You know, where they took on this, I don't even know what the fuck to call them, the League of Nations or whatever the hell they were called. Was that last year or the year before? I think it was last year.
Yeah, no, it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year. And then after their match, you know, out came they wheeled out Stone Cold and Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels, who got to make them look like chumps. And the one thing that I kind of don't know about them getting beaten down like that is I kind of think that WrestleMania continuity has quite a lot in it. Or I like to think it does, because this is going back to when I was younger and I was trying to learn more about wrestling when I finally got into it properly. And it was only really the big shows that I was watching. Not the big show, the big shows.
No, so I mean, he has been in it that long.
Yeah, he has been in it that long, but yeah. Do you know what? Strangely enough, it was WrestleMania 15 that I first really got into wrestling, which is just like 6 weeks after Big Show's WWE debut. So that's terrifying. But yeah, I just think that if you look back, like everyone's always going to remember WrestleManias, and I just like to think that there's a little bit of continuity between them year to year. There of course isn't. I'm just thinking, I'm expecting far too much here. But yeah, moving on from New Day, because their segment was complete and utter pointless shit. We've spent more time talking about it now than we had any right to. I think we've spent more time talking about it than they actually got on TV. So let's move past their ice cream truck and talk about Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns now. Thoughts on the match as a whole?
Surprisingly, an okay match, considering Roman Reigns was in it, who I can't stand at the moment. You know, with all his like is when he goes to do his spear and he does that hoo-ha
Yeah.
mumbo shit, whatever it is. Which, oh yeah, let's give them a clue. We're winding up for our finishing move.
Yeah.
Good idea, mate.
Now, I'll quickly interject. I actually have a solid as water theory on this. Basically, when you see him go ooh rah like that, the crowd are booing him because they know the finisher's coming. So for him to have a chant that makes it sound like everyone is going ooh instead of boo, that's why that's why I think he does it, because it gets the crowd doing the noise they don't want them to make right as he hits his finishing move. That's my theory.
Yeah, that. I mean, horribly, that's probably true. But anyone who's actually in the audience knows that they're booing him, not going along with it. So that can only be for the TV audience.
Yeah, well, I think it is for the TV audience. I think that's why they turn down the boos when he comes out. Like you can hear it. It's almost the most exciting bit about Raw, is to hear how much they start mixing around with the sound controls. Like, I mean, if Paul was on the show, he is a sound engineer by trade. That's his day job. I'd love to speak to him briefly about how possible that is, and if it's easy enough to do with a live audience and stuff. I'm sure it is, because, well, clearly they're doing it. It's beyond a joke at this point. I mean, we kind of looked at this as maybe being a sort of setup for Reigns versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think that would have been a good juncture to do it. I think it could have made both men look a bit better regardless of outcome. But the outcome was Roman Reigns defeated Braun Strowman clean as a whistle.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that I hated about the match, was the end of it. Up until then, I think they both had quite a good match. You know, Strowman obviously throwing Reigns about everywhere, power slamming him through a table and all that jazz. Roman Reigns doing 2, 3, 4 Superman punches, which, yeah, we know by now that's not going to take him down, but he tries anyway.
Yeah.
The flying clothesline off the stairs, and yeah, you look at Strowman, and you know, if this was any other day, a spear would not put him down.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of said again on the preview show that I would have quite liked some sort of reason to keep these guys apart until WrestleMania. Don't have Reigns and Undertaker at Mania. Have Reigns versus Strowman, because right now Strowman is at best going to win the Andre Rumble. Like that's probably as good as he's getting at WrestleMania at this point in time, which is criminal because they've actually booked him so bloody well for the last sort of 3 months, and longer when he was squashing jobbers. But realistically, they've booked him like an absolute beast. And to have him just be pinned here, I think, is kind of bullshit, especially when we didn't get an Undertaker tease. So, yeah, not too happy about that. Yeah, like I still feel they should have been kept apart till Mania, where they could have had an absolute mess of a match. You know, like the WrestleMania needs like some sort of match like Ambrose Lesnar last year. You know, a no DQ clusterfuck brawl, like that would have been great for these guys. Look at Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens. Like, they had an awesome outing at the Royal Rumble. That was a really good match. Reigns could have done that with Strowman at Mania, and you know what? At WrestleMania, I wouldn't have been too sour about him winning. You know, if he'd been able to use weapons he's finally slayed the beast because he's used the kitchen sink on him. Fine, I'm absolutely fine with that sort of booking.
Let's face it, legitimately, that would be what it would take to put him down.
Yeah, it should be, especially from what we've seen over recent weeks. And yeah, it was a very flat ending. I expected the lights to go out afterwards. Like, I think that would have made everyone forget about what we'd just seen if the lights had dimmed, and just Undertaker wouldn't even have had to have been there. Like, just Reigns in the ring, freaked out to fuck, knowing that he threw the Undertaker out of the Royal Rumble, panicking about what's going to happen. But no, we didn't get that. We cut to Mick Foley meeting Samoa Joe backstage, telling him to not get involved in the main event. Which is interesting because Stephanie told Mick that nobody was to do anything to interfere with the World Champ or the Universal Championship match or the Women's Championship match, which basically 10 minutes into the show absolutely confirmed the fact that we were going to get a whole load of shit in both of those matches, and well, we did. Bayley versus Charlotte Flair was next, and I am going to say I was extremely disappointed in these two. I know they're both much better than this, but neither of them did anything to show it. Bayley's whole thing in the corner, I don't even know what that was. It's one of the sloppiest bits of televised wrestling I've seen since Dana Brooke completely fucked the ending to her match with Bayley. But it was appalling. It was the springboard elbow to Charlotte's hand. Like, what the fuck was it? And then to add insult to injury, I mean, the table spot in the Strowman Reigns match, realistically, probably a disqualification in an actual standard wrestling match. I'm absolutely certain that Sasha Banks running out and brawling with Charlotte should have caused a disqualification.
Considering the ref was looking right at them.
The referee was right there. He saw the whole thing. It was absolute bollocks. It does nothing to make Bayley look good. Charlotte's sort of big thing about the Queen of Pay-Per-View thing, that's gone now. That's gone. Regardless of how they try and spin it, she's been pinned, so she's lost. There is an L in that column. And fucking hell, it's just... Oh, this was dreadful. I honestly think this is my personal pick for worst match on the card, purely for the fact that it shouldn't have been as bad as it ended up. I've seen varying reviews across the internet about it. Some places were calling it a 3-star match. No, it wasn't. They normally have 3-star matches. Sometimes we get a 4 out of them. This was dreadful. This had so much more potential than Cesaro against Jinder Mahal, which was crap in its own way. But this was just, please, you can take something while I take a few deep breaths.
I can't say any different. They're both better than this. Charlotte undeniably is probably the greatest woman wrestler they've ever had. That's not to put down, people like Lita, Trish Stratus, but she's just incredible. And this whole thing with Bayley just being a fan, I don't know what that's about, but Bayley is, she was one of my favourites in NXT, yeah. I'd admit. She's come to Raw and, she's doing the whole "I'm so happy to be here" stick. Yeah. And, I don't know what Sasha Banks is doing there. It was a one-on-one match, so why she felt the need to interject, I don't know. Yeah. The only way that's going to play into it is Charlotte's going to say, it should have been a DQ and, we'll strike this from the record. But like you said, she got pinned, so a loss is a loss.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can't. There's really nothing good I can say about this. I hate it. I hate the Raw women's division right now, and they deserve so much better. That's why I'm frustrated. It's not this is women's wrestling, so it's crap.
There's one positive I can bring out of this match, and that is that Charlotte sent Dana Brooke back to the back.
Yeah.
That's it. We didn't have to put up with her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the only thing that means is that Charlotte is essentially looking like the face in this. You know, it's like Charlotte overcame or was looking to make a level playing field and almost overcome the odds if it did come to the fact that Banks got involved in this somehow. I feel like they're probably leading towards another multi-woman match at WrestleMania, probably a 4-person. I think Nia Jax gets in there somehow. But yeah,
I'd imagine so.
She doesn't deserve it at this point either. Like she
honestly, I don't think any of them do.
No.
Just get rid of the title at the moment and just
yeah.
None of them deserve it.
No, but you know that Charlotte's not being kept out of the title picture. You know Sasha's going to get involved in the title picture. Like if anyone bothered watching Raw Talk afterwards, they had them coming out wearing matching Bailey hoodies, giving it the whole BFF kind of rubbish. And I don't know, it's almost like they've suddenly gone, well, shit, we broke up Owens and Jericho, so now that angle is free to be rehashed a little bit. So I don't know if that's what we're seeing, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You say that, sometimes it does seem like the writers don't realise that the women and the men are actually on the same show and they have the same viewers.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed it a lot. Like some of the little ideas they have, and you think, well, the blokes did that like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. 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 Perfect. Yeah, exactly. They all deserve better. They're not getting better at the moment. But the most interesting fact about the end of this match was that I think local time that finished at around 11:15 in the evening. So the pay-per-view was scheduled to go off air at 11 p.m. So people admittedly started turning on the pay-per-view at this point. If they hadn't already, they started to realise, well, shit, there's 15 minutes left, and we have entrances, and we have a potential promo package, and we have this, and we have that. People started panicking. And then we got a Seth Rollins promo about his rehabilitation in the build-up to WrestleMania, which lasted a couple of minutes, and that's when it started really looking bad. Like, at this point, I was watching it this morning on the network, so I'd fast-forwarded to this point, so I saw how long was actually left in the runtime. You know, this wasn't this show's going to go over. I knew that there was, 11 minutes left for the video package, for the entrances, for the whole kit and caboodle of this. So, we got that. We got the, we got the entrances, and they were fine. They were what they were. And Owens decided to get out of the ring before the bell rang, which is actually a really interesting point. I would have liked them to have rung the bell. Actually, I think that ringing the bell and then him sliding out would have made this a lot better.
As he has done before.
As he's done before. He's done it against Sami Zayn. You know, it makes sense. I don't really like it a great deal. I do think it makes him look a bit of a shite bag, for want of a better way of putting it. But, if they just rung the bell first, I feel like I would have been a bit happier with this. He walked around, he teased getting in, they were like, oh, well, he's letting Goldberg's intensity die down. He's going to try and, he's playing mind games at this point. Well, guess what? His mind games didn't work. They didn't work. Jericho appeared at the top of the ramp as soon as it started. Spear, jackhammer, and we have a new Universal Champion.
A big sigh is all I can think about it. Like, why? It's just, what, so we can have Goldberg v Lesnar for the Universal title? Like, who will give a fuck about that now?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you just know if Lesnar wins the title, he's going to defend it 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Goldberg, if he's winning it, he's not sticking around for that much longer. So he's going to drop it, probably his first defence.
Yeah.
Maybe the second. And it's turned... I thought they were trying to bring some legitimacy back to the title when they broke up Owens and Jericho.
Yeah.
And this is just, put it back, how it was 2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see the reasoning.
There's... I don't like the fact that we kind of knew that they wanted to put the belt on the Goldberg-Lesnar match. But the thing is that could have been sold as a marquee matchup anyway. Like, it doesn't need the title. Rock versus John Cena 3 years ago didn't need the title. It didn't make much sense in terms of ruining it. I mean, I kind of see a little bit of a point in that with what they're doing on SmackDown. They're kind of rolling the dice a little bit on an unproven commodity in terms of the championship match.
Yeah.
And while it does look like we're going to see Bray Wyatt against Randy Orton, that was never going to close WrestleMania. And I think they've gone, well, hang on, we want the title to close WrestleMania. But it's not always. I know they've got 2 titles and it makes sense for one of them to... But we've been here before. We've been here before. Once in a Lifetime didn't need the title. When it was Once in a Lifetime, there's no reason why they couldn't have had Owens against Jericho for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania in the second to last match behind Goldberg and Lesnar. That would have been completely acceptable. At this point,
I would have gone for that.
That would have been completely acceptable. I would completely understand that. And do you know what? It would actually make me want to see Goldberg and Lesnar more, because there isn't a day after for it. And I think that's a bit like there has to be a day after WrestleMania. And no matter what happens with Goldberg or Lesnar coming out, which it looks like it's going to be Lesnar, who's going to take it off of Lesnar 24 hours later? Realistically, like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do a championship swap the next night on Raw so they've got an active Universal Championship? No, probably not. But then, so we're going to have no Universal title until when? SummerSlam? Because they need to have the Universal title on the marquee matchup of that as well. Like, this is rinse and repeat booking we're getting now, and it's shit. It's really shit. It's everything that's wrong with WrestleMania booking right now.
Yeah, for me, if they give the title to Lesnar, then the only viable way someone is going to actually beat him is if it's with a Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's all they can do. Because that's what it took last time with Rollins.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
there's not much else I can say about it. I really can't.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me at all. Like, I really do believe that there's something wrong somewhere that this is being allowed to happen. Like, I don't understand why there's people who are not interjecting in this at all through, like, in the back, in the locker room. Like, I don't understand that. I can't believe for a second that everyone in the locker room is okay with this. Kevin Owens looked like an absolute dick here. We saw him at the last pay-per-view. He performed that, going 25, 26 minutes in a match that was absolutely full of plunder with Roman Reigns. For him to then go, spear, jackhammer. Like, Goldberg has wrestled for a total of fucking 90 seconds, I think. It's like 90 or 100 seconds since his return. It's dreadful. It's horrible booking. I don't care about Goldberg now. I don't really see why the crowds seem to be so into him. because this is worse than Batista a couple of years ago. I
Oh
think
God, no!
you
I've
don't.
forgotten about him.
You don't think it's worse, or you just pushed it out of your mind, and I've reminded you, and now you're upset.
No, I'd push Batista out. Like, you know, he's just another one. Like, I just couldn't. You know, he was the same. It was like spine buster, powerbomb, when Goldberg gets speared, jackhammer.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, I don't know who I was kidding, but I thought when he come back, he might have actually got some wrestling experience
Yeah.
to him. Like, he's trained up a bit, he's learned some new moves, and you know.
Yeah.
But no, it's the same thing that happened in WCW for whatever it was, 100 billion matches in a row or something.
I think that was the official final figure. Yeah. just to
Right,
make Hogan look
it
good.
seemed like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Owens is he's way much better than that.
Yeah.
You know, it just, when he first started, you know, and he was sort of rolling out his accolades and, you know, beating John Cena on the first night, and
Yeah.
that was beating him clean, you
Yeah.
know. And he's gone from that, all that acclaim, all that potential, you know, and now he's losing to some fucking 40-year-old has-been for 30 seconds worth of work.
He's 50. The guy's 50 years old. Like
50?
The only reason you should ever have to see a 50-year-old man wearing trunks like that is if you end up going to holiday in fucking Marbella. Like, that's the only reason you should ever have to see that. It's not. It didn't look good for WWE last night. I mean, in terms of summarising the whole pay-per-view, it felt like a big long slap in the face. The last time I really felt like this was after WrestleMania last year, and I almost hate to say it, but it's really going to take an awful lot for me to get excited about Mania, other than it being WrestleMania. Like,
yeah,
it is.
I'd have to start seeing the card come in to see how excited I get, but it's starting to seem a bit predictable.
Yeah, I mean, it's the internet age. We all know that, you know, things get floated around, and plans get leaked, and we start getting the smart people kind of going with what we think's going to happen. But there's like none of the big matches at this point that we know we're getting. Nothing there. I'm wanting. Nothing there at all. Like, it is going to take an awful lot for me to get excited about staying up until 6 o'clock in the morning to watch WrestleMania, which is awful. Like, WrestleMania weekend is my Christmas. You know, it's you've got the day before. If you look at that as Christmas Eve, you've got the Hall of Fame ceremony. Well, Christmas Eve I get excited because I watch Die Hard. Like, that's my Christmas Eve, and then you've got the day itself, which, you know, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's alright, sometimes it's kind of shit, but do you know what? It was still WrestleMania, it was still Christmas. Like, it's over, and we just look towards the future. And this year, I'm thinking that, you know, I'll maybe convert religion and just acknowledge Christmas as a couple of days off work.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Like, WrestleMania, it was better when Vinnie Mac was in charge. You know, of the whole thing.
Yeah.
During the Attitude Era, like, WrestleMania every year was just incredible, like you said. But since Triple H is running the show, it's all very predictable. You know we're going to have Goldberg v Lesnar. You know we're going to have women's title match. We know we're going to have A versus B, depending on what happens on Raw and SmackDown the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I'm expecting Baron Corbin versus Ambrose.
Yeah.
For instance, we know that's happening now. But I think the SmackDown side of WrestleMania is going to be infinitely better than the Raw side.
Yeah.
at this point.
And yeah, that exactly sums it up. Like SmackDown, at this point should be trying to take WrestleMania as an exclusive pay-per-view, because that is about the only time that I can really say that it's going to be exciting for me. So we'll see what happens. We have Raw in a few hours' time. We've got SmackDown tomorrow night. I will be back talking to Paul on Wednesday night about that. That'll probably go on the site around 11 p.m. Wednesday night UK time, or Thursday morning if you follow it through fpgnews.com. Quick plug actually is that the podcasts are now being uploaded to a YouTube channel for backup purposes, so feel free to go over there and subscribe to FPG News. Not exciting list videos, nothing like that, no sort of what culture thing, so make sure that the iTunes feed or whatever podcasting network you use, we are on most of them. Make sure you're subscribed on there, but hit up YouTube as well, because I will be putting them onto there as well. So plenty of places to find FPG News. So Liam, have you got anything that you're wanting to plug before we say goodnight for this show?
No, nothing in particular. Yeah, just Fastlane. If you haven't watched it yet, don't bother.
Yeah, we've told you literally all you need to know about it. If you are a fan of The Walking Dead, then check in tomorrow on FPG News for The Walking Geeks. I don't know if you're in on this one this week, Liam.
I will watch it and see how I feel.
Okay.
I've been, much like wrestling, I've been quite disillusioned by it the last couple of weeks. So
yeah.
Last week
cool.
I struggled to put more than 2 sentences together. So
yeah.
I'll see how it goes.
So, and do you have a game for your Friday review?
Oh yeah. I'm undecided between 2 at the moment.
Okay.
Either Shadow of Mordor or Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, cool. I'd be happy reading either of those, actually. Yeah.
Old school.
yeah. Either one of them would be great, yeah.
I'm playing them both at the moment, so...
See, I love Shadow of Mordor, and I'm really looking forward to Shadow of War. I think it looks pretty good, yeah. So.
Well, that's come out of nowhere, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it may be the game that makes me consider a Scorpio. So we'll see, but probably not. But yeah, it looks fantastic. It looks absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, that is another tangent. That's another conversation for another day. We are done with Fastlane, hopefully forever. I know that I have another wrestling podcast coming up this week, so I hope to not have to talk about it too much more then. But that's been it. Thanks everyone for listening to this Fastlane review. I've been your host, Stewart Lang, Out After Dark 216 on Twitter. Make sure you like FPG News on Facebook to get updates from the site, all your great columns, all your great news articles, all your great updates. And yeah, Liam, share your stuff and then we'll say goodnight.
Yeah, I am the Grimfish on Twitter and Instagram. New game Friday. Not sure which one yet, but we'll see it when it's up there. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this show. Rather, hope that you enjoyed it more than anyone enjoyed Fastlane, and that's been it. So until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace out, guys. Night.